This episode of I Work for Him is sponsored by SaferNet, Patriot Mobile, and the U.S. Christian Chamber 2026 Expo, found online at swc2026.com, code I Work for Him. You've tuned into I Work for Him, the voice of collaboration for the faith and work movement.
We are your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg, and our mission is to inspire every workplace believer to recognize their workplace as their ministry place, where they work with God every day. What can that look like in your workplace? Well, let's find out right now.
When you look at the over 2,000 interviews we've done over the years, very few have involved institutions of higher learning. One reason for that is I have a rule. Anyone with a doctor in front of their name or a PhD after is prohibited from using any 5-syllable words on the show. And secondly, most institutions of higher learning do not see the significance of whole life discipleship yet and living out our faith in our work yet, even if it isn't a ministry degree. I mean, they're still learning this stuff. But today's going to be very different. Very, very different. While our guest has a doctor in front of her name, she's easy to talk with, and her university, Seattle Pacific University, is dedicated to making sure every one of their students gets the idea behind I Work for Him. JoAnn Flett joins us from Seattle Pacific as she is the executive director of the Center for Faithful Business. The no 5-syllable word rule still applies, JoAnn, but welcome to I Work for Him.
Thank you so much, Jim and Martha, for having me on the show. I'm so excited to spend time with you.
JoAnn, as we do with every first-time guest on the show, we always ask people to share their Jesus story. How did you come to be a follower of Jesus?
Oh, yeah. No, that's great. I started early. Thankfully, God had me in a family of faith, and I saw that faith lived out with my mom and her sisters. And so by the time I was probably 7 or 8, I had come to know the Lord, but was actually baptized at age 12, just to kind of get into that real sense of knowing. And it was a childhood following of Jesus, but it was all along the way an accompanying of a God who reached down and has drawn me into a relationship with Himself. And sustains that relationship. So, yeah, but it's that's how I came to know Jesus in a family setting.
Very cool. Very neat.
That is. It's what a blessing it is to have that as part of your legacy. So, you talk about God accompanying you. Let's talk about at what point in your life did you understand or realize that God loved the work that you were doing and wanted to walk with you in that?
Well, that's a great question. So I started off wanting to go to Bible college. I'd actually been recruited to be an accountant at McGill and to study accounting, and wanted really badly to be a missionary. And so decided to go to study at Prairie Bible College in Alberta, Canada. That moment it's interesting because I had this one older missionary person said to me, JoAnn, God is really more interested in the worker than the work. I think as I get out of 2025, the word "and" is really become the beautiful word for, if I have to have a word of the year for 2025, it's "and." I would say now, yes, God is interested in the worker and the work. In the context of our work, we live out our faith. And somewhere in Bible college, I came to this realization that I want to work for Him, not in formal ministry per se, like going overseas as a missionary, but in everything that I do that is ministry. And I think of ministry as being that role of drawing people into relationships with Jesus. And actually in the workplace, I have way more opportunity to do that than I would if I had gone overseas as a missionary, to tell you the truth.
Well, how significant was that conversation, though, for you to be able to grasp that, how I could still be an accountant and be in full-time ministry. Yeah, I could still be in industry working at McGill, as you said, and still be in full-time ministry. In fact, I've had great arguments on the air with missionaries who've gone overseas, and they're like, well, and I say, and these people are going to their mission field. That's not a mission field. I'm like, oh yeah, it is. There's lost and hopeless people in every workplace. That makes it a mission field because there's people there that need to meet Jesus. Drive change with your change by using Project World Impact's swipe feature. a tool that puts spare change to amazing use.
To get started, visit Project World Impact's website or download the PWI Swipe app and create a free account.
We invite you to choose I Work for Him as your nonprofit of choice. This partnership will ensure that more workplace believers discover that their workplace is their mission field.
Then you'll just enter your card details to link a credit or debit card. You can even link more than one if you prefer.
Just set it and forget it, and still impact workplaces and believers all around the world.
At the end of the month, the spare change from each purchase you make will be calculated and donated to I Work for Him.
It's that easy. No hidden fees, no extra work to do.
You've learned to partner with God in your work. Let's help more people come to that life-changing realization.
Sign up for Project World Impact Swipe today. When you got vaulted into your accounting career, you spent a lot of time there, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And so I finished Bible college. I had, a year of, before I went to college, a really substantive year working with a CFO restructuring an oil company. They were in bankruptcy and they were restructuring, selling off parts of it. And my dad knew this person. And so I worked very closely with that person. And so when I finished with a bachelor's in biblical studies, the most work I had done was accounting. And so I was one of Costco Wholesale's first accountants. That's actually
Wow.
quite fun. Yeah. And I left it to go work for a local city because in 1990, Costco was not a household name.
No, not even.
Yeah, not even. And so, but accounting, but in both of those places, whether it was Costco or the local city, or as life would go on globally in London, working for the Queensland government, there was an opportunity to be friends and befriend people who would never be in church. And they get a bird's eye view of your actions and your person and everything. And frequently people would stop by my desk and say to me, when they were going through whether a life crisis or anything from even an accident, like someone driving into work had an accident, they'd come by my desk and they had this sense that you have like a direct line to God. Literally, this is what they would say. And I'm like, what? Because I pray. You do too, if you would. But the context of the workplace allowed for a relationship to form. And as I went through seminary after Bible college, the idea of ministry was anything I do to draw people into relationship with Christ. And that can happen on a mission field with missionaries in the pastorate, but it also can happen in the workplace. And so here came my ministry coming alive in the context of accounting. Who knew? To be able to meet and work alongside people, my craft itself would speak volumes to them and the excellence that I had there, but my care for them as people would then offer us conversations. They'd look at how we lived our lives as a family, the decisions we were making to go one place or not another place. And all of that spoke volumes and had them, at a minimum, curious about our faith life, and in some instances, overtly asking about it. So it's a great opportunity that people in the workforce get to have, is people can actually come to you and ask you about faith.
And the story that you tell is exactly why I Work for Him is in existence, because God has shown us there are stories all across this country and around the world where people are seeing how they can minister to their cubicle buddies, to their, the people around the boardroom, wherever they may be working. They're on business as mission, truly, in and getting paid, to do that.
Fully funded
which is
missionaries.
kind of fun. So tell us briefly just then, how then did the shift happen that got you into academics?
Yeah, no, that's very much a God thing. All of life is at this point. But so I had moved to, my husband and I had moved to Eastern University. Eric was teaching theology, still teaching theology. And I was working as an accountant, and they put me in to teach a 400 level cost accounting class in the evening.
Ew, cost accounting.
Oh, I love cost accounting. I love it.
That's one of those classes
We don't
they
agree
use-
on this.
It's one of those classes they use to weed out the people that just aren't going to be able to make it.
Yeah, this was a 400 level
Yeah.
from 4:30 to 7 o'clock, one night a week. I spent more hours prepping for that thing than my day job. It was really something. But I had 22 students in the class. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And the student said, "What else are you teaching? If there's anything else you're teaching, we'll sign up for it."
Aw.
And the chair of the department came to me and he said, "Do you want to teach more? Would you like to teach more?" I said, "No, I kind of have a day job." Well, long story short, the provost then said, "We'll create a visiting lecturer position for you, and you can come into this visiting lecturer role." It had me in the classroom half the time and the other half out in industry to kind of stand up and work with internships and working with students
Oh,
to
neat.
kind of help them through initially accounting and finance, but then we kind of then went out into everything. And it was I like to say Eastern University grew me up. Yes, I took a massive pay cut leaving industry to go into the academy, but my goodness, they unleashed gifts about networking, caring for students. I trained in Bible college and in seminary and never took a pastoral role, but in that professor role, I could really kind of come alongside students. I could develop relationships with local businesses. And so, yeah, that was the moment I stepped out of industry and into the classroom. And that was 20 years ago, and I haven't looked back.
Wow. It's so neat when we get to hear stories like this where we can see how God was building this timeline of skills and talents and abilities for a purpose. For many of us, our trajectory may change several times during our career, but changing our cell phone provider to match our values is something we only need to do once. Patriot Mobile is built on the pillars of faith, family, and freedom. And if you make the change before the end of the year, you get 2 free months of service. Just remember to tell them that I Work for Him sent you. And this is a good change to make as you head into 2026. Use the promo code HOLIDAY25. The offer is you'll get 2 free months of service, which ends at the end of the year. So look at the link that I'll have in the show notes for all of those details.
So how did your time, JoAnn, at Eastern University solidify your understanding of that intersection of faith and work?
It's really good. So I started in the business department. Remember, I'd come through theology. At
You mean you survived, but you went to Fuller though, and Fuller's one of the only seminaries in the country that really gets this. I mean, they really get it.
Yeah, they're a few. The Regent in Vancouver,
Right.
Paul Stevens, but yes, Fuller really gets this at a whole different level. I had Rob Banks for a professor, and so I'd come through the theology piece. I had gone back into business, and I was trying to put those two pieces together. What I had taken from Fuller was this definition of ministry that Julie Gorman, one of our professors there, had us work out our own private conversation around ministry. And that was anything we do to draw people into relationships with God. Understanding that God is in God's self is a trinity of beings, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and that is that's relationships writ large, right? I won't use the five syllable word perichoresis, but we'll just, because then I'll be barred from the show. But then
No, you
the
just have to give the definition. That's what you have to do.
yeah.
There you
The
go.
mutual indwelling between Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the dance between the Trinity, is known as this idea of perichoresis, and it's the 3 in 1. And that relationality, and in God's created us to be in God's image, and that image is relational. And then business is relational. Just think of the myriad of relationships we reach out into business, into the stockholder, from the stockholder to the employee, to the customer, to the supplier, to the local government, to larger federal government. So it's a myriad of relationships. My goodness. So relational God, relational humans, and a medium of relationships. That's not by coincidence. And so I was working out that conversation at Eastern in the business department and landed on this idea of shalom. Shalom had always been out there, but shalom is rightness of relationship with God, self, others, and creation. And so this idea that business could pursue shalom and that we could equip people to think theologically in business and to think about it as working, joining God's work to restore shalom. So
And
that
when,
was all being done.
and when shalom is missing, you
Right.
realize that you're not walking alongside God
Yeah.
where he wants you to be.
Yeah.
Because his intent is for us to walk in shalom wherever we are. So when
Yeah.
we're feeling like crazed lunatics, like accountants typically are at year end, quarter end, month end, if you're not feeling shalom in that, and I have a sister who's a CFO, so I can speak to
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
then we understand there's something out of whack because God is not there in the chaos. God brought order to everything, which is why accountants love Jesus.
Well, he's still there.
Well, I understand.
He just isn't
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
his fullness,
He's there-
maybe.
right?
Yeah.
But chaos
Yeah.
isn't a
No, I know.
yeah. It's
I'm
not a
giving you a hard
derivative
time.
of. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, but shalom is that it is, and Cornelius Plantinga in his "This is not the way things used to be" would tell us that what was broken in the garden was shalom, right? That relationship with God was broken, and with self, and with creation. It all just went out the window in the garden. And what Jesus came to do is to restore shalom. And so our work in the world is to join God's work in the world to restore shalom. And here I was working that out at Eastern with their MBA students, where we would like to say the MBA students who graduated from Eastern had the head of a business person, the heart of a missionary, and the soul of a development worker, right? So they were attracted to Eastern for that reason. They literally would give up top rate schools, other schools, Ivy League schools, to come to Eastern because they wanted this idea of development practice, theology, and strong business acumen. And needless to say, one of the big joys of my career was the program direction for that group of students and that work. So yeah, really, really blessed by
So
it.
if you've got students and you're listening to the show today and you got students that you're going, where should I send my students? Sounds like Eastern University's somewhere you should absolutely check out. Of course, Seattle Pacific is also one of those places you should check out.
Well, and let's talk about this. So in 2021, God moved you to Seattle Pacific University and to the Center for Faithful Business, right?
That's right.
So why did you decide to take on that challenge?
That's great. That's a great question. So I moved from Eastern to SBU, but while even at Eastern, I longingly looked at my colleagues at SBU. Jeff Van Duzer, Kenman Wong, Denise Daniels. They were doing something in business. They were scripting this out in the classroom. I was trying to put it into a specific program with the MBA, and they were scripting it out larger for the faith community in North America. And Jeff's book, Why Business Matters to God, and What Still Needs to Be Fixed, is a critical book, taking you through the grand narrative of Scripture, creation, fall, redemption, consummation, and showing you how business is at work, how God's at work in the context of business to kind of facilitate that. So this group of friends, when Eastern closed the program I was just talking about, this group of friends reached out and said, "Hey, we are hiring for a new executive director, and you've been, kind of aware of this work, and you've also been trying to do this work. You should throw your name in the hat." And I did. I threw my name in the hat, and to God's goodness, they extended the call. I think there were like 21 other people in the really notable good people, but they were kind enough to extend an offer to me. And so in 2021, I moved out here from Philadelphia, and I took on this challenge of stewarding this incredible work, because it's work that they had been doing. This work didn't start when I came. Right. It had been happening since 2004 in the Center for Integrity in Business under Al Arisman and John Terrell. And then I got to, they hit pause, and Gene Kim, then they hit pause, and then they renamed it the Center for Faithful Business and hired me as the new executive director. So yeah, I get to steward great work. I stand on the shoulders of my colleagues.
Wow. And it is some great work. We're going to talk about that in a second. It's almost time to flip the calendar to 2026, and that means looking ahead to what God has in store. We hope you will prayerfully consider what you might add to your calendar to help you grow and connect in your faith at work and surrounding yourselves with others that are doing the same. Whether you find a local event or a group to get involved with, or a national event like the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce event in Orlando in April, or the National Faith and Work Summit in Cincinnati in June, there's something out there that might catapult your year. Check out our events page for all the details, iworkforhim.com/events. So, JoAnn, the Center for Faithful Business, what's the aim?
It's great. It fits exactly with I Work for Him. The work of the Center for Faithful Business is to promote a Christian understanding of business. And we do that through the academy, business, and the church. I call that the ABCs. So if you're a business professor and you're listening to this, we have resources for you. If you're a business practitioner and you're listening to this, we have resources for you. You want to promote a Christian understanding of business. If you're a church leader, I'm working with pastors and with pastors of discipleship and executive pastors. We have things that can help you train and work in discipling your congregants. So yeah, we are here to promote a Christian understanding of business, and we have several ways in which we can do that.
That's so good. So something that I think you're most famous for that Jim and I were aware of were the 44 documentaries through Faith and Co. Tell us about that, because, and I'll share a link so people can go and maybe watch some of them because they're so well done. But tell us what the idea is behind that.
Thanks for that. Yes, we're well known for our Faith and Co. video series. 5 seasons, so please go binge watch them. They are 8 to 12 minute long videos. They are separated into 5 seasons. Business on Purpose is season 1 and has 14 of the documentaries in there. And then we have Serving Customers, Serving Employees, Serving the World, and then Faithful Investing. So across 5 seasons, you'll find films of people of faith who brought their faith to work. They lead companies, and how that mattered in their work. And so if you want to see live examples of that, these are the exemplars.
Yeah, and everybody listening, these are phenomenal videos, and they are top notch. This is not a documentary by a guy with a cell phone. This is real stuff, shot on location, super well done. Do you have your own Roku channel yet?
No, but we should.
You should have your own Roku channel.
So let me ask just a couple real quick questions regarding Faith and Co. Because I think this is it piques my curiosity. I would love to know if students helped develop it and where this idea came from to really share these stories with the world.
Yeah, that's great. So students are the aim for it. They're the target market. So we created them to be used in the classroom.
Okay.
But the people behind it were pastors, again, across that ABC. They were academics, they were business practitioners, and they were church leaders. And so they reviewed these videos that were brought to us. So they'd get a rough cut, they'd speak into it, and then we'd tailor it to the specific story. But the idea was to use it just in 8 and 10 minute increments in the classroom to spur conversations on faith.
Cool.
And we wanted students to be able to, because often if you've been in a higher institution and you've been in the classroom, you ask a question and there's crickets, right? But if you hold up exemplars, we know that helps students to kind of get even more interactive, and you can say, well, what did you like about this, or can you believe that there are people like Don Flo of Flo Automotives who are so faithful in car dealership and people of integrity that you could trust them? That's not car salesman and integrity or not. We just use those in the same sentence, right? But his faith influenced that, right? So it was intended to bring it to this group of students, and it was done in community. And the vision behind it was always to help people nurture their faith, to see that they too, whether you're in a hospital, as in our film Remarkable Always, where she's a hospital administrator, or you're in the car dealership, or in the restaurant business, like every business across the industry, you can be a person of faith. And that faith matters to God, and how you show up, how you do that work.
For the record, for our audience, we were used car dealers for 15 years.
And our tagline was what, Jim?
Where integrity is just a way of doing business. And it can be done. It can be done. And that's before we understood the faith and work connection. That was just because we felt led by our faith. All right, the Center for Faithful Business, known for these incredible videos, available to anybody out there to learn, to inspire. Just like our I Work for Him podcast, we're covering stories of people living out their faith in their work and of people that have got great resources. This is one of those great resources. But in addition to these 44 documentaries at Faith & Co., which they can access online, the Center for Faithful Business is also known for having the largest library of books related to the faith and work movement. Is this list publicized for reference? I mean, how do we get access to this list?
Yeah, it is. It's on our spu.edu/library. It's right there. It's on our CFB at spu.edu. I'll provide the link so you can have it for the notes. There's a downloadable PDF of the 2,400 books and articles in faith and work, right?
Awesome.
And so you can have access to that. I'll just quickly swing back to Faith & Co. really quickly. One way people have been using this is they've been having watch clubs. So they actually, like you have a book club, they have a movie club. And so they go through a season, they watch all the films. An entire season will be 48 minutes of film watching. So you can easily do that. And then you show up, you have a meal, and you discuss the films. And they're finding all kinds of great things happening. I also have a group in Rockingham, Virginia, she started this group with season 1, and it's a lunch and learn. So on Thursday, they show the film while people bring their brown bag lunch and they're eating their lunch. And then based on the themes on the film, they have local business people responding in a panel to the conversations. And so she's gone through season 1 and through season 2. And now there are 60 business people who renamed themselves. She was going to try to be like an outpost for the Center for Faithful Business, but they renamed themselves Rockingham Business Associates. And they're just doing this now to build community around faith and business in that part. So in that part of Virginia. How cool is that?
That is so powerful.
That's very cool.
And it just goes to show you, when you hear what God is doing in someone else's life, it sparks something that says, wow, what could God use me for? Or what could I do in my work that would make a difference for the kingdom? And so it's very inspiring. And I love that people are using it in such practical ways. So in conclusion, as we close this all out, what else is happening at the Center for Faithful Business that we need to know about?
Yeah, there is so much. So locally here, we offer, we have a Faithful Work Conference on April 18th. We have Miroslav Wolf here. We have the guys from Barna Group. We have local business panel. And this is to just kind of feed and nurture and support our local business community. We celebrate local leaders in business who've been faithful. And so we give a Frank Haas Integrity in Business Award every year. And we use that as an opportunity to talk about this person's testimony locally. It's really great. We also have the Bruce Kennedy Ethical Leadership Lecture. Bruce Kennedy was the former CEO of Alaska Airlines. And upon his death, we received some money for an endowment that kind of keeps moving in this direction. So we keep the conversation on integrity and faith and business really well aligned. But perhaps the most significant work that we're undertaking right now is to start to provide resources for the Christian middle manager. And so if there are any Christian middle managers out there, and we define middle management as you have 3 or more direct reports, but you do not talk to the C level. You have an in-between level that you're reporting to, so you're very much in the middle. We want to provide resources for that group of people. And so our work in the center is starting to think about who these people are, what might they need to nurture their faith and to support them in their discipleship and their walk with Christ. So those are some of the things we have going on.
Yeah, what better way to influence an organization than be in the middle? Because that means you can explode down and explode up. If you start praying for those people that are working for you and the person you're working for, you start to have amazing influence, and it starts to trickle up and down at the same time. If you're a CEO, you only have one direction you can go. And if you're at the bottom, you can only have one direction. But when you're in the middle, You can go both ways. It's incredible.
Yeah.
JoAnn, people really need to check out the Center for Faithful Business. You got a lot of great resources out there. We've got the link in there, but it is cfb.spu.edu, right?
Yeah. cfb@spu.edu. So at sign.
cfb@spu.edu. I know you're going to look in the show notes anyway, but I wanted to make sure we said it because the Center for Faithful Business has been cutting edge for a very long time. JoAnn Flett, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Jim and Martha, for having me on.
You bet. You've been listening to I Work for Him with your host, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. We're Christ followers. In our workplace, it's our mission field, but ultimately, I work for Him. This episode of I Work for Him is sponsored by SaferNet.com, PatriotMobile.com/I Work for Him, and the U.S. Christian Chamber 2026 Expo, found online at swc2026.com, code I Work for Him.
Thanks for listening to the I Work for Him podcast with your hosts, Jim and Martha Brangenberg. Please visit iworkforhim.com to learn more about connecting your faith and work, to join the I Work for Him Nation, and to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. While you're there, check out the Tapestry Database, a growing directory of faith and work organizations. You can also follow us on social media at I Work for Him to stay up to date and meet our guests. If today's message spoke to you, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform. Your review will launch more workplace missionaries across America. That's I Work for Him and online at iworkforhim.com. I work, the number 4, him.com.